Now, when we consider energy management for the entire song, it has somewhat already been done in the entirety of the song right here. And that is, how we handle when the energy goes high and when it goes lower, like in the breaks and build-ups. Why do we need that? Well, imagine if I just copy-pasted this entire drop the whole time and maybe played a different, synth line on top of it through the entire song, just like, let's say, a guitar solo on top. It would get boring pretty fast. Even if it was really, really, interesting, but, having that repeat itself for, 5 minutes, it would just be too much. So in a song like this, where the entire song lasts for 3 minutes something, we need to manage that energy. We need to have the highs and the lows. Why? Because the highs won't feel as high if we don't have any dips in the song that are going to, allow the listener to get some reference to a lower point in energy. And then once we give them all of these leads and the bass and all the drums and everything, the song starts being more exciting, starts being more energetic. So without giving them the lows to reference to, the highs don't seem as high. That's just as logical. What has been done here, we have the intro that gives us the main melody, which is normal. So we're introducing the listener to the harmony, to the chord structure, to the whole chord progression that we have. Then we do a build-up because we want to build up into all of these drums and the basses, to raise the energy. We do that, follow up with some, let go the switch up. That's going to lead to a break. That slow down again, lower the energy. Again, we go into a build-up that's going to start raising that energy, building tension, building expectation for the listener. So they're going to expect something to happen. And then we introduce that energy back in again. And the outro just serves us to actually lower it down and to actually give the cue to the listener that the song is about to finish. Now, one thing, when I was listening to the entirety of the song, when I played it for you in the last lesson, one thing I did not like was having all of these synths come in at the same time, like right here at the ending. So we get the entire chord progression coming in, because right here we just had a couple of chords. We have these coming in, we have all of these leads following through. All of this stuff just, drops in all of a sudden. Somehow for me, that's too sudden. So the transition sounds good, but how we managed the energy of this part compared to this part has quite a difference. And it's not that it doesn't work, but I think that it could be better. That's just my subjective opinion of what this sounds like, actually. Now, as this synth, I'm going to pull this synth down because this synth is doing nothing else but following the chord progression that we have. I'm going to leave it right there. Yeah, because it follows this chord progression. Yeah, right here. As it's following that, I'm thinking about what should I maybe introduce here before all of this. So I want one of these elements to happen here, just so we have a slightly less difference between these two parts, this one and the one going after it. So let me see what this is. This is the main lead that plays in between all of these chords. Okay, and what is this? And we have another thing right here. Yeah, a chopped up vocal. So I think I'm gonna like that to happen right here, because we will be able to hear it right there since we have all of those basses. Okay, nice. And I'm gonna try, what is those? Are just some chopped up thingies. Let's see. Maybe we can try those too, but let's see what this does first. So let's try those two at the same time. So I already have them here. I'm just going to activate the clips. I can right click and say activate clips, or I can just press 0 on my numpad. So let's do that. So let's try this now with the transition. Of course, we want to see how that jumps in. I'm feeling that this one has a lot of reverb, which was really concealed when it was playing with everything, with this forest of sounds. But now that it's playing a little bit soloed out, you can really feel those being too much, putting that sound in a really weird space. But that's a mixing decision. But right now, I want to take care of those. I want to get my, initial levels and everything also in order. So we're going to do that in the next level of the course. But in this lesson, I want to deal with this energy transition. So let's see what happens between these two. Let's listen to this entire drop once more. Not a problem, I would say. I just want to try something more, like let's say this lead also. I deleted these two. I thought they were just like too much. So let's see what happens when I have only the basses, this lead, that vocal, and this chord progression that only happens, you see, right here. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's now, it feels bad that the basses have stopped. And it's like the energy is like missing from the second part now, because we have almost most of the elements playing before. Now in the second part, the only thing we're adding is this chord progression, which actually adds chords right in these places. That's just more often that it happens, but we are losing this bass that stops. And that's too much of an energy drop off if I don't introduce enough new things in the second part like it was. So I'm going to keep this lead only there. I'm just going to maybe add this vocal, and I'm going to keep the bass only the first part. These, just to be clear, these mid-high basses. All of these crazy growly things. So I'm going to keep them only in the first part. And I'll tell you why. Why is it not playing all the time? So listen, when I play all of this all together in this part of the job, listen to what it sounds like. That could stay, but I think it's just too much information. Too much of the mids and highs playing together, all of these basses, all of these leads. It's just drawing the listener's attention from one tune to the other in an uncertain way, and I really can't have that. I want it to be more simple, more attractive, more clean in a sense of what is the main point of that part of the song. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. The only thing I've changed, seriously, is only having this vocal added. And I think I'm going to re-add these, since they are a better idea to add from the second part than actually, than the lead. Okay, now I know what I want to do. I want to stop, the basses, the sub, and everything for one beat. Just like this. One beat. Yep, that much. So I'm going to stop all of these before the next part. So we have some kind of a transitional thing happening. Okay. We have the crash and everything popping up right there. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's better. So now it's much easier to actually swallow, this change up that happens just because of this small gap I made right there. And that's a transitional accent, something that we are going to do right now in the next lesson that's coming. But before we go into that, this energy management I talked to you about in this lesson is all about handling how much energy we have in each piece of this song so that the progression, gives us a natural kind of up, down feeling. Now, as I told you before, why do we even have to go down with the feeling? Well, at a certain point, we just break it up. We just leave a couple of elements, just to bring the energy down a tiny bit at least, if not a lot, so that when it rises again, it brings much more impact onto the listener. So giving them a dip in the energy makes the next energetic part seem much more energetic than it actually is. It's just the same drop that happened already right here, but it sounds exciting and uplifting again because there was a brief moment of an energy drop just before it, building up into it. Now, as we settle for cohesive progression, having elements that actually connect the parts just like that, and as we have the energy sorted out, in the next lesson, let's talk about transitional accents.